Hi, welcome to a very special edition of 6-5 on the road. I am Melody Brue with more insights and strategy. I am here at AdobeMAX. AdobeMAX is like the creative conference, and I'm here with Vic, and I'm going to have to pronounce, you tell me how to pronounce your name because I'm afraid I'm going to ruin it.
No, Vic Viswanathan.
Vic Viswanathan.
Yeah.
That's actually, it's such a beautiful name, but I didn't want to ruin it for you. So you have a really big special announcement here. You announced GenStudio for performance marketing. Tell me about that. And also let's talk about the problem that it solves for marketers and creative teams.
No, absolutely. Thanks, Melody. We are super excited about the launch we had yesterday at Max. And GenStudio for performance marketing is the application as part of the Adobe GenStudio solution. For those of you who've been part of Adobe's journey on content supply chain, we've been at the forefront of trying to solve content supply chain problems for our customers. And GenStudio for performance marketing is the first app which really goes end-to-end from a workflow standpoint, trying to solve it. And what it really tries to get at is creating content for personalization. You've been a CMO, you know that is a problem which is just getting bigger and bigger. You have more channels to put your content on, you want to personalize to more audiences, and all of that's creating a massive load on the creative teams. And the creative teams, budgets aren't getting bigger, so this demand is causing them to not be able to meet what marketers want today. And what it ends up happening is marketers are either not able to use the right kind of content they want to personalize for their audiences, or they just pick a few segments they go after. But I think with the advent of generative AI, we have the opportunity to do things differently. And GenStudio for performance marketing is really Adobe's way of creating an end-to-end workflow that brings both creatives and marketers together to create content and content variations.
And in some ways, you talk about creatives and marketers, it sort of allows marketers to be more creative, because I think there's a little bit of a misunderstanding, I think, in some ways, that marketers aren't creative or aren't as creative as, what we would consider like the real creatives. So it allows non-creatives, or not the traditional creatives, to be more creative, right?
Yeah, in fact, we did a survey of our creatives, and we found our creative customers spend up to 40% of their time just doing edits and resizing, and that's not why they got into the creative field. And we're at AdobeMAX. There's so much excitement about the creative inspiration, and that gets lost, right? So in a way, this gives time back to the creative, because we're using AI to do some of the stuff which took so much time from them, and we're allowing the marketers to leverage the AI part, but also be creative within guardrails, so that we can create on-brand content. So, because for GenStudio for performance marketing, at the foundation, we want everything generated to be absolutely on-brand, high-performing, because this is for performance marketers. We want it to be personalized for all the different audiences you're trying to meet, and we want it to be compliant for your industries, because every industry has a set of compliance needs before content gets pushed out into marketing.
Yeah, so you talked about those guardrails, and that is from a compliance standpoint, but also from a creative standpoint. So controls and guardrails. Let's talk a little bit more about that and why.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's very important to our enterprise customers, right? Because AI gives the power for everyone to be able to imagine and create things. That's an awesome thing. And at Max, we saw all the innovations that how people can do stuff. Yeah. But you want to make sure when you take that power beyond your studio team, which used to be, which is very, very aware and thoughtful and conscious of your brand, and you start letting people play with it, you want to have the controls and the guardrails in place so that your brand doesn't get tarnished. And especially for our large customers, brand is so important. It's such a big part of the ethos of the company. I mean, you can see at Max, right? Everything we have here is on brand. There's a theme. We are in Miami, and it's a very carefully constructed brand. And so what we do in GenStudio for performance marketing is we provide those guardrails in multiple ways. First, all of the brand guidelines which our customers have are loaded up in your instance, the customer's instance. So if you have a document of all your brand guidelines, GenStudio for Performance Marketing can read that and understand what it means to be on brand. Second thing we do is when the marketer is generating the content, generating the variations, we read those brand guidelines, and the model is actually coming up with results based on those guidelines. So it's guided to provide stuff on brand. And then what we also do is, once the content is generated, we use the same guidelines and run a check against that to see, did you meet these guidelines? And we give a score for each piece of content. You saw the demo on that, which is actually great. It's great feedback because marketers sometimes are, they take a piece of content and they're reusing it. They know it's the creative content from Studio, but they're like, did I mess it up? Did I make changes? And is the copy really going to stand? And now we give you a score to give you the confidence to say, hey, this is 90% meeting all the guidelines. And if it doesn't, we tell you where it falls apart. So that's the second way in which we do it. And the third most important one is you can't publish anything until you get the right approvals in place. So if your organization, it's the creative who signs off, it goes back to the creative, every piece of content before publishing, because we have review and approval set up in the product. And the marketer pushes out for a review, and once the creative looks at it, approves it, they can do it in the product, you get an email, and then you're ready to publish. And you can activate on the channels we talked about at the launch as well. So
you've had this in private beta for a couple of months now. What's the reaction been? What's the feedback been from those customers?
Yeah, I'd say two things. We've been in beta for a little over 3 months now, and we've had about 18 customers, and it's been fantastic. We're very thankful for our beta customers helping us design the product in a way. And I would actually throw Adobe in the mix as well. This is definitely a unique way in which we built the product. Like, our marketing team co-built the product with us because they told us what they wanted to see. They told us what works for them, what didn't. And the biggest testament to that is they're actually using this product live, right? They're using it for their production workflows. And where we see all of the learnings and feedback coming in is that this is a new way of doing things. The fact that you're taking away some of the mundane, repetitive tasks out of the equation using AI to help with that, and you're getting marketers and creatives to have a handshake and have a common language in how they operate. Who better to do that than Adobe, given our creative heritage and our Experience Cloud presence? But I think what really starts to stand out is, like, you need to take small steps, right? What we've seen from our customers is to pick the use cases which you want to start with, test it out, right? Scale it up, and then start adding the other use cases. And when you take Adobe as an example, we've seen great results, right? Like, our own marketing team, when they used it, they found that they were able to, for example, emails. Emails is one of the asset types which you generate within GenStudio for Performance Marketing. They were able to get 10% bump in open rates, 57% jump in click-through rates, which is great because it's not enough to just create a lot of content, right? If it's not high performant, for performance marketers especially, purely content for content's sake is not sufficient. So we heard that from our customers too, and they wanted to make sure that we have the rich content insights flow back into the creation, and that's part of what we're building into the product as well.
I think that's really interesting. It's kind of like Adobe on Adobe, and
Yeah.
I've heard that a lot from your product teams about, like, how some things were actually born out of an internal need, and then they said, like, well, this is something that our customers could really use, but it was really developed internally, and then realizing that, like, well, the world needs this. And I think that's a really great way to introduce a product. It's like, some people call that eating your own dog food or drinking your own champagne. But
Champagne sounds better.
Champagne sounds better, but sometimes it's dog food, right?
Yeah.
Then you make it into champagne.
That's right.
But you also announced some really interesting partnerships in a way to get this content out, like Meta and Google. Explain kind of how that ecosystem works and why that,
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I'd say the important thing is we need to be, the channels we support, we are starting with email, display ads, banner, it's paid media, right? And paid social media is a big one. And we want to be able to push into all those channels. So we entered into partnerships to make sure that when the content gets created, you can directly activate it from the product. And so that's a big part of those partnerships. We are very appreciative of our partners there. And I think our ecosystem goes even beyond that, right? So there's an activation part to it, but also there's a broad ecosystem of our agency and integration partners who we expect to build and continue working with this on. Because again, we're changing the way how marketing gets done, and we can't do it alone. I think we need, customers need to be thinking about their marketing processes differently. And also we need the help of our agency and system integration partners to help fill in the gaps as well, because this will require a village to change how we do marketing differently.
So what's next for GenStudio for performance marketing? What's on the roadmap? What do you like? What's your vision? The big
Yeah,
thing?
no, we are very excited. I think part of being at Max, you get rich feedback from customers. You know, the launch has been less than 48 hours, but we have had tons of good customer conversations, and those influence our product roadmap, right? I think we want to build stuff which customers see value in. And I think we already hear some great feedback on being able to, you know, one of the big pieces of GenStudio for performance marketing are the rich content insights, which we can generate, pulling in the performance data for all the content and campaigns out there. And we want to be able to use that to help you generate better, you know, generate more content which is high performing. So that's something we will be investing time in. You can also expect us to expand the partnerships in terms of our ecosystem, both in terms of channels as well as in terms of agencies and partners we work with. And then we want to build on what we do in the product in terms of making it more compliant. Because I think, and this is where some of our partners come in, a lot of industries have very specific needs for approvals.
Yeah.
Approvals don't just stop with like one person reviewing it. They're multi-stage. They also have very specific requirements for how, like the MLR review or, you know, claims review in CPG. And, you know, we want to build all of those for those different industry verticals in our product. And then I'll say that, you know, we want to more deeply integrate GenStudio for performance marketing within Adobe solutions, so that that end-to-end workflow, we deliver on that promise. Because this is a V1, you know, out of the gate product, what you saw yesterday, and it's a standalone product. It doesn't require the support of any other tools to start with, but it works better in conjunction with all our other, like with AEM assets, with Workfront. So you'll see us lean into some of those integrations to make sure that we are delivering value on the GenStudio promise.
Yeah. Well, we can see by just this studio that we're sitting in that when you put all the things together, things become bigger and better. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
well, thank you so much for this conversation. It's been super informative, and it was really great to see all of the demos yesterday. And for everybody joining us, thank you so much. We are here at AdobeMAX in Miami. And if you want to see any of the things that we've been talking about, you can go to adobe.com and check them out, because there are some things that are really worth checking out. Thanks for joining us.